Hello, and welcome to the Inside Job Experiment. Thank you for being here. My name's Rundy. Today I want to talk about parental alienation, which is a form of narcissistic abuse that is not talked about nearly enough. And this is episode 1 in a series I'm doing about the experience of parental alienation. Today I want to focus specifically on how it impacts the targeted parent. Parental alienation is extreme. It is a form of domestic violence. Children are manipulated and weaponized by a narcissistic or dark triad parent with the clear intent to punish, destabilize, and erase a loving parent. I want to be very clear about this from the beginning. This abuse does not stop with the children. It often spreads outwards to family, to friends, teachers, coaches, healthcare providers, you name it. The whole community gets pulled into this distortion. The targeting parent will play a zero-sum game, spreading lies, rewriting stories to fit their victim narrative, to gain favor with the children and the outlining community. So the targeted parent is not only attacked in private, they are often socially portrayed as the villain as well. One of the most devastating parts of this abuse is that it does not only rupture the relationship with your own children and your community, it gets inside you. It attacks your nervous system, your self-trust, your reality. It attacks your identity. This is what I call the identity attack. The identity attack is what happens when the external violence of parental alienation becomes an internal distortion. It's when the lies, the accusations, the rejections, and the rewriting of reality and the emotional pressure starts living inside you, inside your mind, your body, and inside your entire sense of self. And if there's one thing you may be feeling as you listen to this, it's probably that I know this is happening and it's wrong, but part of me still questions myself all the time. And I'm here to tell you, you're not crazy. You're responding to prolonged abuse, distortion, and coercive control. Your confusion does not mean the lie is true. It means your nervous system has been under attack. This kind of abuse is designed to destabilize you at your core. This is how coercive control works. It's a form of gaslighting, but on steroids. It hijacks your inner world and your reality. And once you understand that, a lot of things begin to make sense. Because the suffering of the alienated parent is not only the pain of separation from their own children, it's also the pain of being forced to live inside a distorted reality where your love is rewritten as danger, your care is rewritten as harm, and your identity is put on trial. That is the identity attack. And that is the reason this is so psychologically brutal, because good parents don't usually see this coming right away. They often wake up to realizing that they're living in the middle of a nightmare. And that's when they begin to ask, how did I get here? Could I have prevented this? Am I really who they say I am? And that last question is where the attack goes deepest. Because once the distortive narrative gets inside of you, you are no longer grieving your child. You're also beginning to doubt your own goodness. And that's one of the most damaging things this abuse does. It makes a loving parent question their own reality. Now, one question you may be asking is this: how do I know if the identity attack is happening inside of me? And here are a few signs. You feel physically and emotionally drained. You feel confused and you constantly question yourself. You feel like you need to constantly explain yourself to others. You're in a state of despair and depression, and you begin to feel panic, anger, shame, fear. And maybe one of the deepest signs is this: you simply don't feel like yourself anymore. Sometimes the identity attack does not only look like pain, it looks like over explaining, obsessing, replaying conversations, trying to make other people see a reality before you're even grounded in your own body, spiraling in fear and in doubt, abandoning your own needs while you try to survive this nightmare. That matters, because this is not just heartbreak. And if you recognize this in yourself, I want you to hear me clearly. This does not mean you are broken. It means the abuse has gotten inside of your nervous system. And it means that the first task is to not judge yourself. Your first task is to stabilize. I also want to mention one very important point. It's unnatural for a child to reject a loving parent. Attachment research shows that even children who are abused still choose their abusive caregivers. Children will tolerate enormous harm and stay attached. So when a child is brought to the point of rejecting a truly loving parent, we are looking at extreme abuse, extreme coercion, and extreme distortion inside the child's relational world. This does not happen naturally. It has to be installed. And oftentimes, the survival bond between the child and the alienated parent becomes so intense, so enmeshed, and so fear-driven that it's considered Stockholm syndrome, because the child is adapting to the psychological pressure by aligning with the very person controlling their reality in an abusive way. And that is why I believe this is so important to tell the truth about parental alienation. Because once we begin to see the distortions that have been created within us as a result of this abuse, we can begin to shift the energy within ourselves. We can start recognizing the fear loops for what they are, and we can start seeing the traps for what they are. We can start noticing the moments when we're about to get pulled off center by shame, guilt, over explaining, and the desperate need to make a distorted person see reality. And once that awareness comes in, something changes. Because once you can see the distortion, you're no longer fully inside it. This is where empowerment begins, because awareness creates space. And that space gives you choice. A choice to begin returning to yourself instead of abandoning yourself inside chaos. So, what do you do when you notice identity attack is happening in real time? First, pause. Second, name it. Say to yourself, this is an identity attack. This is distortion. This is not the truth. Third, come back to your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Manage your breath with a 4-4-8 breathing for 3 cycles. Put your hand on your heart or your solar plexus, and then return to the one truth that you know about yourself that this abuse cannot erase. Now, I want to be clear about something. This does not mean denying mistakes that you've made if you've made them, pretending you are the perfect parent, or bypassing honest self-reflection. I'm talking about learning to tell the difference between honest reflection and psychological collapse, true accountability, self-blame. Because if you don't separate those things, the abuse keeps working inside of you. And that's the trap. And this is important when you're inside the fear loop. It is not a good time to identify with it as the truth of who you are, or to prove your goodness to someone who believes the distortions. When you keep trying to resolve your pain, prove your goodness, find peace inside of a false frame. But peace does not come from agreeing with the lie. Peace begins when you see the truth about what has happened to you. An activated nervous system is not a reliable narrator of your worth. And the truth is this: parental alienation is a campaign of distortion. It's the weaponization of parental bonds, manipulation of a child's reality, social sabotage. It's why it feels so devastating. And it's why so many alienated parents feel like they are unraveling. This is what happens when abuse is designed to not only hurt you, but to make you question yourself while it's hurting you. So if you've been asking, how can I start to see myself with clarity and with truth? How can I release these distortions? How can I let go of the fear, the self-doubt, the guilt? You will start to shift out of the identity attack. This is the first step to freedom. You start to separate from the distortions. You stop mistaking every thought, every fear loop, every shame spiral for the truth. And when you do this, you begin to understand this is not the deepest truth of who you are. You are so much more. And this is where this series begins, with truth, with clarity, with naming the abuse for what it is, and with beginning to reclaim that part of you that still knows who you are underneath all of this. Because that part of you is still there. It may be buried under years of grief, manipulation, destabilization, but it's still there. And coming back to that part of you is healing. It's sovereignty. As I begin to close, I want to mention that I've left journal prompts in the description below if you feel called to journal after this session. So for now, I want to invite you to do one simple thing this week. Notice one fear loop when it happens. Name it as the identity attack, and choose one grounding action before you respond to anything else outside of you. And if you're living through this, please know you do not have to carry this alone. My deepest intention for this work is to help you feel less alone and to help you feel more connected to the truth of who you are. I really want to encourage you to seek help from a therapist, a coach, or a support group who understand coercive control, parental alienation, and narcissistic abuse. Thank you for being here. And thank you for your willingness to understand something that so many people don't have the courage to face. This is painful work, but it is sacred work. And it begins by naming the identity attack so you can stop mistaking it for your essence. I will see you in the next episode.